Well, hello everybody. This is Keith from the K&B Music Den. Thanks for watching. We appreciate all the support. You're probably wondering where the B of K&B is, Brad. Well, he's not here today, but we're going to be getting together very soon, within the next 48 hours, I believe, to bring you some more album reviews and other great content. But I decided to do my first solo video today. I'm feeling a little lonely without Brad, but I'm going to press on. And this is going to be a new ongoing series that I'd like to call Additions to the Den. So this is where I'm going to show some of the recent CD and vinyl finds I came across out in the wild, as they say, and see what you guys think. Maybe it'll spark some interest in checking some of these albums out. Got some really great deals, great prices, great condition on all this stuff, which is kind of something I'm a stickler about. If I'm buying something, I'd like it to look like it's probably going to work and play when I get it home, or why buy it? It's kind of how I look at it. But let's just jump right in. I've got a dozen CDs and a dozen albums, LPs, vinyl. So let's just start with our first one here. I'm sure a lot of you know and love Sheryl Crow. There she is with her album Come On, Come On. I believe it's her, I think it's her fourth studio album. And the self-titled one is the only one I still really need to find to complete my collection as far as her main albums. I know there's some other ones she has later in her career. Some of them, I have one called Detours. But her, the big 3, 4 in the beginning of her career, I have most of those now that I have this, and I just have to keep an eye out for self-titled. But really good album. Come On, Come On, Sheryl Crow. Next up, now I'm a big fan of the Narada collection. Now Narada is instrumental new age music, and there's lots of different artists. Most of what I have from Narada are collections. They're numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. There's an acoustic sampler that I have. I think it's a double disc. There's a Christmas Narada. Great label, great artists on there. Spencer Brewer, Tingstad and Rumble, just a lot of great stuff if you're into that. And for certain moods, if I'm into, just music in the background where the vocals won't distract me if I'm working on something. But this is one of my favorite artists from Narada, but this is his own solo album, David Landes. Let me see, now I'm getting a glare there. I'm going to try my best here for you. But David Landes, Nightfall piano solos, saw this. Now, most of these were $2, so just check the condition, make sure they're good, and add it to the collection. So David Landes, and Narada is a great label if you're into instrumental new age music. Now, this next one, I kind of made a bit of a mistake, but I'm going to check it out and see if I end up liking it anyway. Now, Brad and I have talked about our guilty pleasure albums in the past, and he had mentioned Ryan Cabrera, which is a, young singer-songwriter, teen heartthrob kind of guy. I mean, he's older now, I guess, but let me see if I have it right here handy. Oh, yeah, here it is. The first one in my C's here. So, Ryan Cabrera, okay. Oh, isn't he adorable? So, for some reason, when I was in the store the other day, I got Ryan Cabrera mixed up with this gentleman. So I bought this CD, Jesse McCartney. I just mixed up the two in my head, so now I own a Jesse McCartney CD. Similar kind of style, I assume, like pop, singer-songwriter. But the interesting thing I noticed about this is when I opened it up, the disc itself is Jesse McCartney, Beautiful Soul. You see that? Now, the cover in the booklet is for Recharged Departure, or Departure Recharged, I don't know. A completely different set of songs. So the wrong disc is in here, but it's still Jesse McCartney, and it's his debut album. So I'm actually kind of happy it worked out that way, although I don't like that they don't match each other, the case and the disc. But I'd probably prefer to check out his, solo debut to get an idea of what he's all about. So that's kind of a wild card pick there. Now, I took a chance on this one, and I'm glad I did because I did not already own this. This is self-titled John Mellencamp. See, I keep fighting with that glare. Ah! John Mellencamp, self-titled. This is from the 90s, the mid-90s. Now, I have so much John Mellencamp that I was afraid that I already owned this, but the cover did not look all that familiar. The song titles did not look all that familiar. Okay. And I decided to take a chance. I think it was $2. Great condition. And I do not own it, but now I do because I took the chance. So glad I did. Talk about guilty pleasures. And here's another one. I was not 100% sure if I already owned this. Took the chance, $2, great condition. All right, I'll admit I'm a little embarrassed, but New Kids on the Block, hanging tough. There's some great songs on this. And honestly, even as just a piece of music history or nostalgia, pop culture nostalgia, I don't see me listening to this a ton of times throughout the rest of my life, but I'm actually glad that I own it now because I thought I did, and now I do. So another one I took a chance on. Glad I did. Now, this is a pretty cool band, and this is another one I was pretty sure I didn't have. I was almost positive, so I took a chance on this. Not even much of a chance, because there it is. Papa Roach. Now, I believe it was their debut album, Infest, with all the big hits. I know I owned that at one point. Apparently, I guess I sold it back. I didn't realize, because when I went to file this one, I'm like, wait a second, I don't even have the one that has all the songs I really like. So I'm actually going to keep an eye out for that now to replace it. But this one is called Love, Hate, Tragedy. Kind of a cool album cover there with the baby, the headphones. But I'm looking forward to listening to that one, giving it a spin. I was real happy to find this one. Bonnie Raitt. And this one is from the late 70s. Starting to figure out where I need to put that for the glare. So Bonnie Raitt here. This is called Taking My Time. I actually listened to this in the car, part of it. And great. It's Bonnie Raitt. I mean, so again, another album of hers that I wasn't as familiar with. And glad to add that to my collection for such a great price and in great condition. Now, this one I have been searching for a while. Not that it's super hard to find, but, you know, I like to make sure I get a really clean copy and a fair price. This was not $2, but it was worth it. System of a Down, Toxicity. Keith, how could you not already own that album? I know. Well, now I do. Of course, I was familiar with the songs that everyone knows from here. Chop Suey and Toxicity and the closing track, Aerials, which is amazing. But the rest of this is so good. A lot of the songs are on the shorter side, like 2 minutes, but they just punch you in the face, get in and get out. And even if you're not into this style of music, it's heavy. The singer is just, he's his own man, I tell you. He's lyrically, vocally, he's a special guy. Serge is really special. It's kind of one of those things, you should have an album like this in your collection, even if you don't typically listen to this heavier type of music. Thoughtful lyrics, operatic singing almost over super, super heavy, almost nu metal type of crunchy guitars and drums and all that. But I've been trying to get this one for a while, but I got it. There it is. Now, this is a band I'm not too familiar with, but I always hear their name. And it's a band that I feel like I should be more familiar with, and maybe this will spur that on for me. This is The. I always like that name. And this is their album Solitude. Now, I believe this is a little later on in their career. I think they started in the 80s. Indie type band. I don't know too much about them, which is why I got this. But they always come up, you know, with people that I respect talking about them. And they've always kind of been on the periphery of my knowledge. So I figured, again, this price, this condition, now I own a physical copy of The, and I'm looking forward to checking out that and more of their stuff. So that's been on my radar for a while now, so I'm glad to get that. Oh, gotta love this guy. And again, another one I didn't already have, thank goodness. Randy Travis. This album's called This Is Me. I got to tell you, it is so hard to see the dates on these things. They're so tiny. Nope, no idea. I have no idea what that says. This is me. I think it's from the... It's not early, obviously. I think it looks like it's from the 90s. But Randy, never miss with Randy. Love his voice, love his songwriting. Just he's an idol for a reason. So there's Randy Travis. Was happy to get that one. 2 more CDs, folks, and then we'll get to the records for you vinyl lovers. This is a collection. I don't typically like to do greatest hits. I'm more of an albums guy, but for this price, and because I haven't really gotten fully around to this band yet as far as getting full albums, which I hope to eventually, great band. I'm sure a lot of you know them. UFO, and this is Essential UFO. So this is a special 16-track collection, as it says on the back. It's a cool cover. So it's got all the necessary ones, I would think, from their heyday. So this will be my gateway, hopefully, into getting some full albums by them. UFO. And this might be, along with System of a Down, this might be my favorite one that I found that I have been seeking for a while now. Someday I might even get this on vinyl because I like it that much. And Brad, if you're watching this, you're going to like this. Tom Waits, Mule Variations. Finally found a good, clean copy of this used. Just a great album, one of his best. Critically acclaimed, loved by the fans. And if you're put off by Tom Waits' vocals, which I have been for most of my life until recently, I'm not going to lie. Finally got over that. Thank goodness, because he's amazing. This album is a lot more accessible. People sometimes talk about his Cookie Monster vocals. And I'm not even exaggerating. That's kind of what he sounds like on some of his albums. But he's such a great writer, and his vocals on this and the writing, it's a little more, like I said, accessible. It's not as off-putting as some of the ones, for some people, that are with the very abrasive gravel vocals. Which, give him a chance, because it took me a long time, but I'm glad I warmed up to them and him. He's absolutely a legend. Okay, there's the CDs. Now, some of you have been waiting more for this. Now, almost every single one of these albums I'm going to show you, and I'll let you know if there's an exception. I think there's 2 in here. These were $2 a piece, and some of them look like they've never even been played. So, really, some great finds here. We're going to start off with maybe a guilty pleasure. Air Supply. Hey, there you go, Air Supply. This one is called Hearts in Motion. I think it's from 87, 88. And it's funny because if you can see the hype sticker there, you see what it says? Featuring the new hit. And then above that, it says their finest album yet. Which is funny because when I look at the track list on this, it's one of the only Air Supply albums I've ever seen where I don't really know any of the songs. But it's their finest yet if you listen to the hype. Believe the hype. But again, all I have for Air Supply is a greatest hits, which is, you're thinking, well, that's all you really need, right? It's Air Supply. But again, $2, clean as a whistle copy. So I have the greatest hits on vinyl and on CD over here, but just to have a full album of theirs and hear some deep cuts for that price in this condition, sold. All right, next. Now, this band I have a little bit of a beef with, which I'll explain in a moment. And it's not about this album. But this is the great 80s band, Alphaville. Look at that beautiful cover there. All right, this is their album, Afternoons in Utopia. Includes the single Dance With Me. Now, most people know Alphaville from their song, Forever Young. I want to be forever young. Do you really want to live forever? Forever, forever young. Well, my friend Hector and I, when we were seniors in high school, we wrote an original song for our class to be our class song, and the school had to vote on it. So we were up against Forever Young by Alphaville, and we wrote this song. You know, I mean, we thought it was good. A lot of people, some people, when they heard it, we played them the demo of it. I think it was on cassette at the time, and some some people were like crying listening to it, like, oh, this is so beautiful, you know. So we lost by 7 votes to Alphaville. But luckily, our choral director, he had the choir learn the song and sing it at the baccalaureate. So the song wasn't completely lost and never heard, but it couldn't beat out the mighty Alphaville to be our class song, which would have been a nice feather in my cap. Not meant to be, folks. But Alphaville, I'll try not to hold it against him, and Forever Young is not on this album, so that's even better. Oh, didn't see this one coming, huh? Roseanne Cash. Look at her. And look at her on the back. Hubba hubba. This is Right or Wrong. I'm not too familiar with her work, and that's why I got it. I know her, I know who she is, but I don't really have any Roseanne Cash in my collection. Now I do. So that's great. Cool looking album too, so I'm anxious to spin that one. Now this one was not $2, but it was actually a good price. This is Alice Cooper, From the Inside. Now, I didn't know much about this album, but before I picked it up in the store and saw it, it's the Alice Cooper album that I wanted to make sure I got a physical copy of, because I'm not a huge Alice Cooper guy. He's great, but I just don't have, much of anything. Maybe a hits. I don't even think I have that, but this album, he was forced to check into. They didn't have rehab back at the time, so it was basically a mental hospital that they forced him to go to at the time to deal with his demons and drugs and alcohol and all that. So he met some very interesting people in there, as you can imagine. So he just wrote about his experiences and then getting out, at the end of the album. And it's really cool, even if you're not an Alice Cooper guy, which, like I said, I'm kind of not. But this album, even that cover, and it folds. You know what? I'm going to take a moment. I didn't want this video to go on too long. Too late for that. But it's just really cool how it opens up like that. And it's a tiny bit beat up, which is why I got it for such a good price. But that's okay. I mean, the vinyl looks great. Some of this is a little worse for wear around the corners and stuff like that. But that's okay. But there's Alice. Looks like he's running out of the asylum there. So I have heard this album online, but I wanted to get a copy. So now I have that. That was something that was on my radar, so I could check it off the list. And by the way, folks, I don't know if you do this, if you're like me and you search out these things. I have to keep a list on my phone of what I'm looking for, because there's no way. There's just no way I could remember everything I have. And one of these days I'll do a full video, a full tour of the room, and you'll understand why I just can't remember what I have and what I don't. So if it's an artist I really like, and I have several other albums, but there's 1 or 2 more I'm really hoping to get a physical copy of, I have a list on my phone, and then if I get it, of course, I just delete it off the list so I don't get duplicates. There's no other way for me to do it anyway. Now, this is half of the great Simon and Garfunkel. Not Paul this time, though. There's Art Garfunkel with his album called Lefty. Cool cover. Swinging the old bat there. And there's good old Artie on the back. Now, I have 1 or 2 of his solo ones, and there's ones that you kind of picture the cover, like the one that's very close up of his face, that are kind of more well-known, I guess. Had never seen this one. Again, $2, clean as a whistle on the vinyl. No-brainer there for me. Okay, here's another one that I have been searching for. I have most of this band's discography on vinyl or CD, but a lot of it on vinyl. And this was one of the earlier ones that the vinyl has escaped me. I just couldn't find this on vinyl at a reasonable price and good condition for the longest time. Finally filling in the gap here in my Genesis collection. There's Wind and Wuthering, folks. Wind and Wuthering. Great album. Great artwork. The birds flying over the tree there. Kind of an underappreciated album in their canon, if you ask me. So I'm glad to pick that up. Again, this was not a $2 one, but very, very reasonable price for what it is. Now, this next one I saw, and I said, I know this name. I don't know why I know this name. And again, $2, great condition. I said, I know this guy, and I can't think off the top of my head at that moment in the record store why, but I'm going for it. And you're probably all saying, oh, duh, Dobie Gray. The song Drift Away, that classic song Drift Away. Give me the Beatles and free my soul. I want to get lost in your rock and roll and drift away. Yeah, that's this guy. This is an early one of his. It's self-titled. It could be his debut. 1979, it says. And you can see it was a promo. It's even got the label here. But yeah, such a great voice once I figured out who I was talking about. So I had to pick that one up. Now here's a guy I've got a couple of already, but I'd never seen this album. Dan Hill. There's Dan. This one's called Frozen in the Night. Look, he's just rocking the white t-shirt, white pants. Why not? Oh, same outfit. There's the rear view of Mr. Hill. But you might remember his song, Can't We Try? The duet he did, I believe, was with Vonda Shepard. The 80s hit, Can't We Try Just a Little Bit Harder? Great voice. I already have a couple of his. Now I have another one, so I'm happy about that. Here's a band I don't know a whole lot about. I do have one other of their albums. Honeymoon Suite. I love this cover. This album's called The Big Prize. Look at this cover. Getting married. Those people hanging out, taking pictures. A couple of them looking like they don't even really care. And then there's that huge waterfall behind them. And doesn't the groom look thrilled? I don't think the bride looks that thrilled either, actually. But this is a great cover. Honeymoon Suite. Let's see, 85 this album was. I have, I think it's a self-titled of theirs, which is, obviously earlier than 85. 80s rock, good stuff. So check them out if you're not familiar with Honeymoon Suite. Cool band. Now this is one I was pretty sure I didn't already have, enough to get it, and I didn't have it, so I'm glad I got it. Mr. Kenny Loggins, Vox Humana. Cool album cover. This one doesn't have any huge hits that I'm aware of that he put out on the radio or anything. I mean, I'm sure there were singles from this that did okay. Again, 1985, same year as Honeymoon Suite there earlier. Love that, always love that cover. Obviously, I already have some Kenny Loggins, with some of the more recognizable hits, and obviously I have the Footloose soundtrack and everything. But I've seen this before. So, there you go, Kenny Loggins. Here's another band that I have, I think just one other of theirs. Platinum Blonde. Another great cover. Nice pink hue to that one. Gotta love the outfits too, right? This screams 80s. Even the back cover with our ingenue on there, I suppose. This screams 80s. This album is called Contact. Let me see if I'm able to read the year. Looks like 1987. Platinum Blonde. And again, 80s, straightforward rock. A little on the heavy side, I believe. Let's check that out. Now, this one, I already have, I found out, I knew I had two at least. I have 3 albums by this band already. And now, this cover didn't look familiar to me, so I took the chance. Now I have the 4th one. I can't imagine they have more than 4 albums out. So I think I've got them all. This is The System. The Pleasure Seekers. Do you remember that song from the 80s? Don't disturb this groove. I don't want to tell you that I'm so into you. Really cool, groovy song, pardon the pun there. But I always liked these guys. And I feel they were a bit underappreciated. Kind of a one-hit wonder, one more than I've ever had. But this is really cool. Let me see if I can get a year on this one here too. 85. Third album in a row. I didn't try that because, as you probably could tell how particular I am, the CDs and the vinyl have all been in alphabetical order. So there's the System from 1985 again. Very cool. Now this one, I could not believe that I didn't already own this. But alas, I did not, and now I do. T'Pau. You have to remember their hit Heart and Soul from the 80s. Give a little bit of heart and soul. Da, 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 da. Oh man, great song, great song. I'm really interested to hear the rest of this album. Heart and Soul is the first track on the first side. Just get right to it. And this album is really cool. I've actually been on the hunt for this one for a while. So, yep. And China in Your Hand was also a single, which I'm not as familiar with, so I'm looking forward to spinning this one. T'Pau. Oh, can I get a year on this? Could we have 4 in a row from 1985? Oh, I gotta get in the light here, folks. Oh, that's way too tiny. I'm sorry. Someone knows in the comments, let me know when T'Pau was released with that album with Heart and Soul. And finally, last but not least, this falls under a guilty pleasure, kind of more of a novelty. I have some albums in my collection from artists that are more known as actors or actresses than they are as singers. Not to say that they can't sing, because clearly they can. Are you aware, by the way, and it's right in front of me, I believe. Are you aware, folks, that this man, I'm going off on a little tangent here. I gotta find it. Come on, I know it's here. Oh, I think it's over there. Never mind. I'll just talk about it instead of showing it. I'm sorry about that. Eddie Murphy. Of course, he had that song, My Girl Wants to Party All the Time, in the 80s. A little fun piece of fluff. Eddie Murphy can sing. He can sing. Oh, my goodness. So I've got that over there in my other pile of stuff. But there's both guys from Miami Vice, Don Johnson and Philip Michael Thomas. They each have at least one album that I own. They might have more than one in their careers, but I own an album from each of them. Don Johnson had a hit called Heartbeat in the 80s. It's a good song. I'm not as familiar with the Philip Michael Thomas album. But all this is leading up to me trying to not be too embarrassed to show my Jack Wagner album. You remember Jack Wagner, the TV heartthrob? And his big song was All I Need from the 80s. I've done enough singing. I'm going to spare you. But this is not from that album because I already have that album. This album is called... Good call here, Jack. It's called Don't Give Up Your Day Job. Kind of poking fun of himself for making an album and being known as an actor or baby. But this guy can sing. Really good 80s production and stuff on the album I have of his already. And I'm not as familiar with this one, but that's why I got it. So I think... for me, there was some really interesting finds. So I just wanted to pass that along to you guys, see if anything sparks your interest to check out. Let me know in the comments, what have you found recently that maybe I'd like to check out and listen to? That's what it's all about, just sharing information about music. So there it was, a dozen CDs and a dozen new LPs into my collection here at The Den. So, as always, thanks for watching. Please click the like button, share this video on social media, subscribe to the channel, please. We're really just blown away by the initial support. We've just started a few weeks ago, and we're slowly but surely creeping up to 100 subscribers, which we're really proud of. So help us get there. Please click subscribe. I'm not going to track you and make sure you watch every video we ever post. Just subscribe and I'll leave you alone, I promise. But again, I'm Keith. Brad will be back very soon, and we'll be doing some more album reviews that I'm looking forward to. More great stuff coming out this year. So this is the K&B Music Den. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope to continue to do more of these as I buy more albums, CDs, and please, like I said, let me know what you've been listening to lately, what you've found out in the wild, and hopefully some of these have sparked your interest to check them out. I'm sure looking forward to spinning these new additions to my collection. I think I'm going to go do that right now. Take care, folks. We'll see you soon. K&B Music Den. Thanks. Take care.